Well, that only works if you wear clothes. If you're willing to put on clothes in the face of God, in the face of God consciousness. But me, I become the opposite. As soon as I start feeling the thrill of developing, blossoming of God consciousness, I throw off my clothes. I don't want to have anything to do with them. So I kind of live a double standard, in which I profess to be a normal person in order to fit in and not grind people the wrong way, because people can't stand left-handers who want to go who want to live au contraire to everybody else's standards, which is socialization, the householder, the hierarchy. You know, Mother Divine's at the top from what we can see, but there's the transcendental beyond Mother Divine. So Mother Divine is not the absolute, well, she is the absolute epitome of creation, but the absolute is beyond Mother Divine. And as Charlie Lutz would say, in the end, we have to walk alone to reach God. And Maharishi warned Charlie that Mother Divine will always pull you back into creation because she's part of the hierarchy. So it's a very interesting thing. We have to be willing to face ourself alone, our innermost transcendental self alone, without assistance from anyone. They can get you to a part way along the way, but eventually you have to stand alone and face yourself. And that's not part of anybody's scheme of reasoning or scheme of socialization. Let's see, what else? So he was talking about Mother Divine, and, you know, she's the most outstanding entity in creation, but there is the absolute transcendental, which is not an entity and is beyond Mother Divine, beyond all entities whatsoever. So in terms of God consciousness, yeah, Mother Divine is the epitome. But then there's this transcendental self, which is beyond Mother Divine, which unifies all beings into one existence, transcendental to beingness. And he mentioned this in his storyline. He called it the void. Well, I wouldn't call it the void. A void is an appropriate term because it's a disappointment to the senses. There's nothing there to sense. Not even the sixth sense can sense anything. There's nothing to sense. There's nothing to perceive. But that's okay. The sixth sense is accustomed to it, but the five senses are not. And for them, it's a disappointment. Actually, no, it's not a disappointment to the sixth sense, to the third eye, but it is a disappointment to the five senses, because they're based on duality, and so the five senses are subservient to Mother Divine, who is the highest mind of creation, and all senses proceed from mind. But beyond mind, beyond Mother Divine, lies unity, or the self, if you prefer, which is a void because there's no distinction anymore. And it's a disappointment to the five senses who require duality in order to operate, and the mind does as well. But that doesn't mean we just disappear and we can't appreciate, there's no means, well, that doesn't mean that existence disappears. That means that appreciation disappears. So we can't appreciate what unity means or the self means except in terms of the self. But there's nothing to compare with. What can you compare to the self if everything is the self? So, and it's not myself necessarily, even though it technically is, but that's not the experience. It's just the self, because there's only one. And it is myself experiencing it, but that's an implication. That's not an experience. Okay? So don't get it confused. So Mother Divine is a means to an end. Even though she's the greatest entity in creation, nothing greater. She's just a means to an end. And I kind of had this awareness some years ago and I forgot about it. Mother Nature will take you so far and no further, and beyond that she cannot go. And if you want to go further, you have to go beyond her. But I didn't know what was. You know, I just thought, well, it's the absolute, yada yada. No, it's the self. And And I've had that experience. I've had a taste of it. And it's totally flat. There's no distinctions in there. There's no titillation. And Mother Divine is like exquisite. It takes exquisiteness to its most highly evolved status of exquisiteness. There ain't anything better than the exquisiteness of Mother Divine. She is absolutely the best of what constitutes exquisition. Exquisiteness, exquisition. Sumptuous, as Charlie would say. Sumptuous, because it satisfies the senses. Anyway, delicate, refined, whatever you want, a superlative you want to describe Mother Divine. In any case, so what's the point of this video? The point was that Mother Divine is the epitome of creation, but that's not the epitome of why we're here. We're supposed to outgrow creation anyway. So that's no, it's no, what do you say? No, it's not intended to be derogatory to Mother Divine or something like that. It's just that she's not the goal of life. Nope. She's not the goal of life. And if we don't understand homosexuality, then we don't understand a protester. We don't understand the rebel. We don't understand the outcast, the pariah, the loner, the recluse. We don't understand what it means when somebody wants to pursue the self, because that's all that means. And when you're pursuing married life or householder life or socialization, a job, a family, that's just one aspect of reality, and it's totally within the realm of creation, but it's not the whole story. It has to do with relationships, seeking activity, interacting with other people, other creatures, other entities, whatever you want to call them. But it's not the whole story. And ultimately, when we sit down to meditate and close the eyes, we're not seeking a relationship with anybody necessarily. I mean, it's said, technically you use a deity as a boat to go beyond the deity, to transcend the deity, to the absolute nature that lies beyond all entities, no matter how great or how small or anywhere in between. It's just a means to an end. It's not an end in itself, and it's not justifiable as an end in itself unless you want to be bound to creation for eternity. Is that what you want? Is that what we want? That's not the goal of life. The goal of life is to outlive creation. Yet, while we are in creation, yet it is possible to experience the self apart from anything and apart from any deity or Mother Divine or whatever, while we're still living in the body. And it's called samadhi. And that's the fourth state of consciousness, when the mind has no thoughts, it has no consciousness, or it has consciousness, but it has no awareness of thoughts, and it has no conscious functionality. Yet it is consciousness without functioning.